Well, here we are, my friends, almost up to the end of this final season of Stargirl, Season 3, Chapter 12, The Last Will and Testament of Sylvester Pemberton. If you're new here or have just otherwise forgotten, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you're not into those, consider yourself warned. Last chance now. On with the show. So if you may recall, or maybe you don't, I have felt like this season has been a great murder mystery, but it was a bit of a slow burn there towards the middle. So if you haven't been sticking with the show, I urge you, please pick it back up and get back into it, because the last couple episodes, specifically the one we're here to talk about today, have really just blown the doors wide open. And it's a shame the show is going away, but if they can stick the landing next episode, if they can wrap everything up in a satisfying way or even a emotional way, then I do think they can pull this off. I do still have thoughts on the whole death of the Crocs. I don't think they're coming back, especially with one episode left in this show ending. They may have come back at some point in time, but I don't think they're coming back at all. This episode throws another wrench into the works with another character who I don't believe is coming back, at least not fully. So as we learned a couple episodes prior, Icicle is back. He never really died. He was smashed to pieces by Mike in the end of season 1. He was in his ice form. Somehow that ice form melted, and over the course of a couple of years, actually no, I say a couple of years, this show actually isn't set 2 years after that first season. It's only a few months after that first season, so I keep forgetting that. But the first 3 seasons of the show, and the only 3 seasons sadly, are only within a few month period of time, because the first season ended at the end of school. The second season was basically that summer break, and this is them coming back from the summer break into the new school year. Maybe by the time this wraps up, we'll have a full year of actual activity. But back to the actual point I was trying to make. So Icicle reconstituted himself. He was somewhat behind all of the things going on this season. So the whole Mr. Bones thing was misdirection. He was never involved. All right, folks. So buckle up, because it's a little convoluted. And if you haven't actually been watching the show, this may be a little hard to follow. So as I mentioned, Icicle is back. Dragon King is back. Ultra Humanite is back. We have those 3 main ISA members. Icicle had killed the Wizard back in season 1. He has also killed the Crocs during his return here in season 3. The Gambler also killed this season. However, I believe that was by the Ultra Humanite gorilla body, as inhabited, as we learn in this episode, by the mind of a Dragon King. So originally in flashbacks, we were shown that Ultra Humanite's mind was inside that actress back in, I'm not entirely sure when, the 50s, something like that. And then he decided at that point he was tired of that body, wanted to move into something stronger. With the help of Dragon King, they transferred his mind into this mutant albino gorilla, and that is where he lived a lot of his life up until now. So at some point off screen, after the death of the JSA prior to our start of the series, Sylvester died during that battle, and Dragon King and Ultra Humanite, still in that gorilla body at that point in time, decided to put Ultra Humanite's mind inside the deceased body of Starman. However, because of some mumbo-jumbo magical stuff with the staff, Starman's body was not decaying. It was not destroyed. It had actually retained a good part of itself, but the mind had disappeared, or the mind had dissipated. The mind was no longer good. Dragon King and Ultra Humanite placed the brain of Ultra Humanite, again, nobody knows his original name, so I'm just going to call him Ultra Humanite, into the body of Starman. The entire time we have been seeing Starman in this show, not in flashback, not in JSA flashback. So the entire time he has been back resurrected, even in those little cutaway scenes in prior seasons, he was the Ultra Humanite. There is no Sylvester Pemberton, although I have thoughts on that a little bit more later. Dragon King was killed at the end of season 1 by his daughter, Cindy Berman. He has been out of the picture, for lack of a better term, for the rest of the show up until now. However, we are shown here that after that death, somehow his brain was transferred into that now vacant albino gorilla body that the Ultra Humanite used to inhabit. So now he is also back, just in the form of another body. If you remember, a lot of my theories early on were that the person that killed the Gambler and the person who attempted to kill Sylvester as Starman was going to be Dragon King inside a new body, a bestial form. I thought that bestial form would be more like a mutated dragon form. I didn't expect it to be the Ultra Humanite, but that is actually what happened here. So now we've got Icicle back, we've got Dragon King back, we've got Ultra Humanite back. The actual heavy hitters, minus Brainwave, the heavy hitters of the ISA are now back together. I don't know what their plan is. Obviously, Icicle is trying to pretend he's changed his ways. Dragon King, never can trust him. He's an evil scientist. And of course, you've got Ultra Humanite in Sylvester's body, who has been doing this whole song and dance for even longer than the entire season. So he has been orchestrating behind the scenes and even in front of the scenes a lot of the things that are going on. So all of these little side stories between Beth and her family, Yolanda and her family, Rick and the limiter on his hourglass, these are all little hints and nudges that Ultra Humanite Sylvester has given them. He is the one that has been causing these little rifts and these little breaks in the team and these little side tangents to keep our characters off their toes, to keep them guessing. Well, whatever plan they're trying to concoct comes together. Probably that plan was to allow Icicle to come back to full power before they can reinstitute their change the world thing they wanted to do originally in season 1. Not entirely sure where they're going with this, but I can't wait to find out. Now, I said I would get back to this point. Sylvester's dead. Sylvester's gone. His mind long erased, long annihilated, whatever, because of his body's interaction with the cosmic staff over the years. That was preserved. That was allowed to heal. That maintained its form and it maintained anti-decay, whatever you want to call it. So his body was fine. That's why Ultra Humanite was able to put his mind inside that body. I choose to believe, and you can see signs of this throughout the season if you think about it, because how would Ultra Humanite have all of the information that he has on Sylvester's life, relationships, and all that stuff? Sure, he claims that he's a great actor, he studied the role, he went and interacted with all sorts of people in his life, and that may be true. Perhaps he also has some mind-reading ability, but I take that along with the fact that he's been fairly mentally unstable throughout the season in different ways, kind of bipolar if you ask me. I take this to mean that once Sylvester's body was back in contact with the actual cosmic staff, so that is to say not long range, when he actually was holding it as we've seen happen throughout the season, that staff started to repair the mind of Sylvester as well. And we have some sort of a dual personality thing going on. Whether or not Ultra Humanite's aware of it, whether or not the original Sylvester is aware of it, I think that's what's leading to some of these lapses in judgment and these butting heads of different kind of ideologies and different kind of personalities. Because we do see a couple of times in this episode, Ultra Humanite in Sylvester kind of getting confused, thinking that he actually is friends with Pat, and he keeps saying, I get lost in the role. What if what's actually going on here is that Sylvester's mind is being repaired and kind of starting to overwrite the mind of Ultra Humanite inside this body. Each time he interacts with the staff, he gets a little more clarity and a little bit more of himself reestablished. We end with Ultra Humanite in Starman's body, burying Pat alive with no real sense of rescue coming because nobody knows Pat's there, except, I believe, Zeke. I do believe Zeke knows where he is. Get back to that in a moment. But what if, in the very final episode, Sylvester's mind starts to kind of reassert itself, and that's the very final act that it takes to kind of come back to his senses and end up sacrificing himself to save Courtney and the rest of the team. And that's the final push that we get to have Courtney finally accept her place as the one true Stargirl, finally accept the staff to herself, finally get that needed resolution with the original Starman passing it on to her. He gives her one final line, one final look, one final wink, something like that. So she finally gets that 3-season piece of closure that she really needed. And we could also get more of that with the rest of the JSA as well, especially if they all come together to defeat this reformed ISA and finally take out the last vestiges of the enemies from the original JSA, because that would be a great ending point for a starting point for a new JSA team to kind of start from scratch, but kind of have this baggage left behind. Now, I said previously in videos that I think there might be something going on with Zeke. Couple thoughts here. It is possible, however very unlikely, that Zeke is somebody else as well. Is there another mind in Zeke's body? Is Sylvester's mind, the original Sylvester's mind, in Zeke? I don't think that's the case. I do just want to point it out in case that is revealed, because I obviously feel like there's more going on with Zeke than we know at this point. but that may be something they were planning to reveal after season 3, so we may never get that. As I mentioned, before Pat went off to follow Sylvester, not knowing Sylvester wasn't Sylvester yet, the only person who knew his plan was Zeke. They were both working at the shop together. Pat said, "I have a plan." Obviously, we think that plan is he took off the flamethrower from Stripe, and that was his plan to bring that weapon with him. But what if there was more to that plan? So Zeke knows what he's doing. Maybe he contacted somebody else. Maybe he contacted the Shade. Maybe he followed Pat, and he is aware of what's going on, so he is going to be the one to rescue him. I don't know, but I do feel like there's more going on with that plan. Also, as far as Rick goes, we finally get the reveal that he's dealing with his whole addiction storyline with overjuicing himself on the power of the hourglass. He took that limiter off. Obviously, Ultra Humanite inside Sylvester kind of revealed his whole plan, that he told Rick to do this on purpose, knowing that the original Hourman struggled with addiction based on this limiter issue. That's the reason he created it in the first place. So we know that there's more going on with Rick, and I don't know if that's going to be 100% resolved within the final episode either. I do believe that he'll get over what he needs to do. Things will end in a good place, but I don't think we'll get that final resolution, because I do believe that was probably a main story point for season 4. Also, a couple things that I don't know if we're getting resolution for. The whole Grundy subplot. We started the season with the whole Rick searching for a way to bring Grundy back, and that's kind of been dropped. I don't know if at this point it will make sense to have Grundy suddenly show up in the last act in the final episode. It would be cool to see, but there's so many story threads that are already being juggled. Unless it's done in a way that really feels genuine, I don't know if I want to see it at all. I'm vastly hoping we get at least some sort of reference or scenes to or of the original JSA, even if it's only a couple of them. I do see that there's some rumors that Jay Garrick's Flash will be reappearing because the actor is kind of promoting the show and winking at the audience. So if he does play a role, that'll be great to see. And we are expecting to see Stargirl herself in Titans. I don't believe that will have any sort of connection to the storyline going on in Stargirl right now, because that wouldn't have been something they could cobble together, especially not knowing Stargirl was ending or not at the time. But it'll be great to see her and possibly more of the world on another show after this officially ends. I'm still holding out hope we'll get a little bit more of Stargirl, maybe once this whole HBO shakeup dies down, especially with them going to Amazon for more stuff. But I don't anticipate the show in a whole sense, with all the actors and characters coming back, will be a thing. Maybe we'll get some more of them together in a team-up show or something down the line. The show as it stands right now is over officially, no matter how much people are wishing it wasn't, myself included. I'm sure I'm missing a lot from this episode. Obviously, Jakeem and Cindy had all sorts of little subplots going on. Another point, Sylvester went to Artemis, told her, you know what, go to college, go play sports, do what your parents wanted for you. I'll take care of Icicle. You don't worry about that. I don't know if that was him trying to keep her out of the way, because I can't possibly imagine Ultra Humanite Sylvester thinking of a non-powered girl being any sort of threat. That's another reason that it seems to me maybe there's a little more goodness in this side of Sylvester than we think, and maybe that's why the original Sylvester is coming back. But what are your thoughts? What do you think's going on? Are you excited to see all these characters coming back? What do you think is going to go on with Pat? Is he definitely down for the count? Are all of our deceased characters, including the Crocs and the Gambler, gone for good? And what about Brainwave? Will he make a reappearance somehow? Leave all your thoughts below. Leave a comment, leave a like, leave a subscription. I don't know how you do that, but if you figure it out, let me know. And until next time, keep on shining.